Welcome back to the channel. I'm really proud to announce a new sponsor. This is Studioform Creative, which I've shown on the channel, funny enough, for many years now. This is your one-stop shop for all of your comfort needs for many different VR headsets. For example, they've got some new pad sets for the Bigscreen Beyond version 2. Made with super soft memory foam, these pads make a fantastic upgrade over your standard foams, and the headphone covers are a really nice touch. Don't forget, I've got a nice 5% discount code which you can find in the notes below. As you've probably seen from this channel, they also have a full range of different comfort mods. For example, the Pimax Crystal, which is a very large headset. It really transforms your experience with the Crystal when using their Apache strap and balancer kits, as well as spacers to make sure that both your head, your neck and your eyes are super happy. Please do check the link in the description below for all things Studioform Creative. Right, let's crack on with today's video. Two very different VR headsets, the Pimax Crystal Light and the Bigscreen Beyond version 2. In many ways, completely different VR headsets. But in some ways, they are battling the same arena, especially now the Bigscreen Beyond version 2 no longer has the compromises of a headset with this kind of form factor. So it's a good time to go through both of these VR headsets, talk about their pros and cons, and my thoughts at the end of the video. Here we go. Let's start with the Pimax Crystal. This headset has a resolution of 2880 by 2880 per eye. It has a QLED panel with local dimming and aspheric lenses. The Bigscreen Beyond, on the other hand, has a micro OLED display with pancake lenses with a resolution of 2560 by 2560. Now in this video, I'm going to go through the major points here, and let's start with the elephant in the room. Just look at this. The form factor is hilariously different. The Bigscreen Beyond is not only a small headset, it is the smallest VR headset in the world and incredibly light. So obviously it's a lot more comfortable, and that's going to get even better soon once Bigscreen Beyond 2 release their Halo strap, which means you don't even have to use a face scan anymore because it will have a generic style light blocker, or you can go the traditional route, which is to scan your face and then the facial interface will be molded to the contours of your face, which is pretty mind-blowing. There is, however, one caveat to this. I personally feel the silicone style facial cushion can get a little bit clammy in the headset after about an hour, and it's just nice to take it off your skin to let it breathe. Comparing this to the Pimax Crystal, well, I will maintain that I personally feel that the Pimax Crystal is actually quite comfortable, and I do have a 3-hour test on the channel, especially when you add in some Studioform balancer kits and the Halo strap, which I've mentioned at the start of this video. But when it compares to the Bigscreen Beyond 2, there's just absolutely no comparison, especially when it comes to inertia and looking around fast with your head, say in a dogfight. It almost feels like you don't have a VR headset on your head. It is an absolutely amazing experience, and when you try something like the Bigscreen Beyond for the very first time, it is very hard to go back. And in my opinion, this is the first reason why this headset is definitely showing the future of VR technology. So I'm not really going to go any further into this because it's an absolute hammer blow of a win for the Bigscreen Beyond 2 in terms of comfort. The Beyond 2 absolutely wins over the Crystal Light, obviously. Let's now move on to the lenses and the visual quality, because then things get a bit more interesting. So the Pimax Crystal has a QLED display, which means it does give you fantastic, beautiful, vivid colours, and with its local dimming provides decent black levels. However, you do get blooming because of the backlight of the display. It can only turn off so many of those zones. I do believe the Crystal Super will be better at this, but the Crystal Light, well, I think it does a decent job, and the black levels in the Crystal are very good with local dimming turned on, although I will say it does affect the brightness of the panel. Comparing the colours to the Bigscreen Beyond version 2, well, again, there's no comparison, guys, because micro OLED is absolutely fabulous. It really is. It looks organic to the eyes. you get absolute perfect deep rich blacks and fantastic colours. And now with the Bigscreen Beyond version 2, I believe it's brighter than that of the Pimax Crystal with local dimming set to extreme, because you do lose some of that brightness. When it comes to clarity, this is an interesting one because I still feel that the Pimax Crystal wins on raw clarity. When looking at tiny text on cockpit gauges, the Pimax Crystal is still immensely sharp. It really is. It's a feast for the eyes, and I still stand by that statement. It's incredible. However, the Bigscreen Beyond 2 is very, very close to that of the Pimax Crystal. And if you have a 4090 or even say a 5090, if you're very lucky, you can super sample that resolution. In the past, I've used the Bigscreen Beyond with the OpenXR toolkit, and I've been able to achieve the same level of clarity with the Crystal, with decent level of performance. Because here's the other thing, the Bigscreen Beyond can pump out its native resolution at 75 Hz, or it can upscale it at 90 Hz. With the Pimax Crystal, you have a whole host of refresh rates, 72, 90 and 120 Hz. That's actually really impressive. It also has its own upscaling method at 90 Hz, which does really boost performance. But you do lose clarity far more than you do with the Bigscreen Beyond at 90 Hz. But there is something else to talk about here, because traditionally a higher refresh rate seems to be better in almost all cases when you think about monitors and perhaps in the VR gaming world. But for flight simulation, actually lower refresh rate is better, providing it's comfortable. And this is where the Bigscreen Beyond really wins as well, because at 75 Hz, it's absolutely comfortable. It feels very similar to 80 Hz with a QLED or LCD panel like the Quest 3. That means you have a better target to reach, and you don't have to sort of get that 45 frames per second, which is half of 90. You only really need 37.5 frames per second, which is a lot lower target to hit, which will give you the same smoothness as the 45 at 90. That's something to definitely keep in mind when you're making your purchase. So in other words, the Bigscreen Beyond 2 performs better than the Crystal Light in terms of performance. Say if you've got a 4070 or even a 3070 Ti, the Beyond 2 will run on that okay. But with the Pimax Crystal, you do need a bit more of a beefier computer, especially if you're running at native resolution. Now let's talk about the lenses. In the past, headsets such as the Bigscreen Beyond, in fact it was only that headset really that took the world by storm with its incredible form factor, while you had to accept they were compromises, because tiny micro OLED displays with those tiny lenses used to mean glare, a small sweet spot and a tiny field of view, and perhaps even a lack of brightness. That's all changed now, because the Bigscreen Beyond version 2 has incredible optics. The best PC VR optics I've ever seen. That means they're better than the Vario XR4. They're better than that of the Somnium VR1. They are on par with the Quest 3 lenses. They are superb, and the edge-to-edge clarity is completely unmatched, as is the warping profile, which is also really, really good. If you are sensitive to warping and distortions, then the Bigscreen Beyond version 2, you're going to absolutely love it. And comparing the Bigscreen Beyond optics to the Pimax Crystal glass aspheric lenses, well, there is no comparison. It's incredible how things have moved on in only around 10 months. However, it's not a clean sweep for the Beyond 2 lenses, because the aspheric lenses of the Pimax Crystal has at least one or two tricks up its sleeve. If you don't use local dimming, or if you have it unbalanced, then I do believe the Crystal is still brighter than that of the Beyond. Unless of course you use the overdrive feature, but then you get more persistence, so I wouldn't really recommend that for long sessions. Also, probably the bigger deal here is the fact that the Pimax Crystal aspheric lenses has very minimal glare and God rays, if at all. It really makes a huge difference whether the Beyond 2 does still have glare. compared to the Beyond 1, wow, it's a crazy difference, up to about 80% less glare, but there is still glare there compared to that of the Crystal. Let's now talk about field of view. You would expect with the Crystal Light's weight and size that you get a decent field of view. Well, my numbers are around 102 degrees both vertically and horizontally. So it stands to reason then that the Bigscreen Beyond 2 must have a terrible field of view. No, not at all. In fact, it is incredible. I get 108 degrees, sometimes even a bit more if I really push my eyes close to the lenses, but I get 108 to 109 degrees horizontal and well over 100 degrees vertical. That is absolutely amazing, and I don't know how the Bigscreen Beyond guys have done it, but it really is a monumental shift in the way we can think about little micro OLED VR headsets such as the Beyond 2. Because when you've got a lens design which has better warping, way better optics in terms of the sweet spots, and you've got a better field of view, way better colours and incredible black levels and amazing class leading comfort, well, at this point the Crystal Light is in serious trouble in my opinion. And it doesn't get any better when we think about the audio solution, because you can get a very nice upgrade for the Beyond 2 which provides excellent integrated audio. Not to mention the microphone as well, which is way better than the Crystal Light because, well, it's better than any other VR headset on the planet, with the Meganex only coming in at very, very similar values in terms of quality, because the dual microphone system on the Beyond 2 is actually better than the microphone I'm using to record this video. Pretty damn incredible. So let's just recap. In terms of the visual fidelity, the Pimax Crystal is a bit sharper, it has no God rays or glare, and it can be brighter depending on how you use it with the local dimming. But in comparison to the Beyond 2, the lenses now have a better warping profile, way better edge-to-edge clarity, way better field of view, and also, of course, with micro OLED technology, it has unmatched beautiful deep blacks and incredible colours, and the brightness is very similar to that of the Crystal Light, especially if you use the overdrive mode, but you do get more persistence. We could also talk quickly about binocular overlap, and to be honest, I don't really suffer too badly with this. I don't find the XR4 problem or the Quest 3, but I know some people can suffer with eye strain. Well, I will say that Bigscreen Beyond did borrow their overlap to get that extra field of view. But I've used the Bigscreen Beyond now for over 3 hours in one sitting, and apart from feeling a bit sticky on my face, I didn't feel any eye strain at all. With the Pimax Crystal though, it does have a better overlap, definitely. And if that really is important to you, that's something that you also need to be aware of. I will say though that some people on my Discord has suffered with eye strain with the Crystal Light because of the lens to eye distance. Studioform do make some spacer kits which can adjust the level of eye relief, which can make it more comfortable for your eyes. Now there is something else to mention here, and that is tracking. This is something that I don't know why but puts people off, because you have to buy base stations for the Bigscreen Beyond. I don't personally find that a negative, because you get the best tracking in the business, and all you need to do is purchase the base stations once, set them up and completely forget about them. Just switch them on when you want to use them, using a wall plug or an extendable cable, which I do. That way you get perfect tracking every single time, and especially if you want to fly at night or in a dimly lit room, you're never going to lose tracking. In comparison to the Crystal Light, well, it's both a strength and a weakness, because yes, you save money, but the tracking can be a little bit lackluster at times. I will say though, in the Crystal Light's defense, is you can get a Steam VR faceplate for it. So really, in a way, I think it's fair to give this one to the Crystal Light, because you have both options available to you. So nice one, Pimax, I really do like that. Then there is the software. The Pimax Crystal wins hands down when it comes to software. Yes, that's right folks, I am telling you that the Pimax Crystal has great software. It absolutely does. The only thing it doesn't really have that's working that well at the moment still is smart smoothing. Whether the Beyond 2 does have native SteamVR smart smoothing. but it doesn't have all of those other options, particularly the different refresh rates and the native OpenXR support in the software. It is fair to say though that the Bigscreen Beyond 2 utility tool, which you'll find in SteamVR, works really well, and I've never had any crashes or issues with both the Pimax Crystal and the Beyond 2 in terms of the software. We could also talk about the IPD, but really that's just a bit of a boring one. They both now have adjustable IPD. It's easy to do it with the Crystal Light because it's a little slider on the headset. With the Beyond 2, you do need a tool to adjust the IPD, and then you set it in the software to make sure that it's rendering the correct IPD values. Bit of a faff, but to be honest, I don't find that a bit of an issue because I'm the only guy who uses the Beyond 2 anyway. But say if you do enjoy sharing your VR headsets, then perhaps the Crystal Light wins on that one, but I personally don't think that's a big deal. Now there is another thing which I need to mention, which probably seals the deal to be honest, and that is the Beyond 2E. That's right, we're going to get an eye-tracking version of the Beyond 2. This could be a massive deal, especially if you can use dynamic foveated rendering. You've seen it in DCS World, folks. If you haven't, where have you been? But it can have up to 100% improvement in performance. It's sensational. But it's only useful if software developers actually use it. And it seems like Asobo, for example, just has no interest in implementing this into MSFS, which is a great, massive shame. So before I give you my conclusion, let's just talk about the price because that's really important. The Beyond 2 starts at $1,000 pretty much, and the Beyond 2E starts at $1,200. The first batch ships in April 2025, and the Halo mount will ship in Q3 of 2025. And for a limited time, customers who own a Beyond 1 can upgrade to the Beyond 2 for $849 or $1,049 for the Beyond 2E. Now you'll need a base station with that, and that will set you back around £150. In all my tests with the Beyond 2 and Megan X actually, I've only used one base station to show that it can work okay. But really ideally 2 is always best. And the audio strap is around £100, which absolutely is a no-brainer. Definitely add that to your order because then you've got a fully featured headset. For the Pimax Crystal, it's a bit simpler. Or actually in some ways it isn't because of Pimax Prime, but I'm going to not talk about that because that's a pain. But if you just want to buy the headset outright, I believe it's $899 with controllers, but without controllers it's $799. And that's just reminded me of something else that the Crystal does better than the Beyond. It does come with controllers, but I never use them because I'm a flight sim nerd. But if you are a Beat Saber player, then that's something definitely to consider because you'll need some index controllers. Those figures are without import duty tax and shipping costs and all that kind of stuff as well, so keep that in mind. And really that's all I can say about the cost of both devices. Only you can decide yourself if that's a lot of money to you or not. I will say though that I think the Pimax Crystal Light is insane value for money when you think about everything it's offering. It really is that sort of Reverb G2 replacement in a way. I say in a way because, well, let's face it, this is my conclusion, folks. The Bigscreen Beyond 2 wipes the floor with the Pimax Crystal Light, and it is the future for VR. This form factor cannot be ignored, especially now we've got a no compromise solution. Before, we had to sort of deal with a small sweet spot, lack of field of view and glare and all the rest of it. The Beyond 2, it looks immense in that thing with the incredible edge-to-edge clarity, brilliant field of view, fantastic form factor, great audio solution which I'd recommend, stable software, micro OLED technology which really is, guys, let me tell you, when you've looked through that display and gone for a night flight, it is absolutely immense. I personally recommend the Bigscreen Beyond version 2 over the Pimax Crystal Light now. It is the best value, super high-end PC VR headset for flight simulation, period. Absolutely. I have no question about it, especially when I think also about the company itself and how professional they are, how they announced it once it was ready. And in the past when people have bought the Beyond 1, it is very rare that I've come across anyone who's had issues with this headset. So if this video has been helpful to you and you'd like to support the channel, I do have affiliate links for both the Crystal Light and the Beyond 2. Really appreciate you watching this, folks. It's been a crazy time on the channel, so thank you for being here. But that'll do for now. I'll see you again very soon. Take care and bye for now.